Hey crafters, Leo with the Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our Love in Bloom card. This is a little bit different, kind of simple, has some 3D elements to it. We tried a couple new things, completely different color palette than we're used to. So a lot of fun stuff, trying some new things here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is, well, let's just take a look at the hearts that we have here. We have a total of 6 hearts. Okay, and 2 of these are, the 2 larger ones are pretty close in size. Let me double check here. One of them is going to, and you want to kind of isolate these and figure out which one's which. Figure out which one goes on this little guy here, and that's the one that fits that one. So this other large one is going to be for the envelope, okay? So put that with the envelope. And you have the main part of the envelope plus the little panel that goes on the inside and the heart. So that's for the envelope, right? Okay, next, take a look and find all 8 of the flower petals and just arrange them from largest to smallest. For the larger flower, we're gonna have 2 of the larger and 2 just slightly smaller than these. And then here we have 2 and 2. Okay, so this is one flower and this is another flower, okay? The rest of these hearts, there should be 5 of them, are going to go on the face of the card, so put that off to the side. Also, these little flowers here, should be a total of 4 of them. That's going with the envelope. Okay, so you can actually just put that in your envelope pile, get that out of the way. Okay, and then this stuff here, these are your little stamen pieces. Okay, so these 2 larger ones are going to go with the larger flower, these 2 smaller ones with the smaller flower. And then we have this guy here, this little gold element. Okay, that's going to go here with this one, and that's for the larger flower. And then this gold element is going to go with this, and that's going to go for the smaller flower. Now, one new thing that I don't know if we've ever done this before, but we have a series of little leaves, and we actually, I guess you could, if you wanted to, use a embossing tool to create the little veins. But we actually cut them, and I really love how they look, especially after I ran some ink on these. The ink initially, well, it's faded since I initially put it on there, so I may reapply it, maybe with a darker color, but it does actually help accentuate the little cuts there. Okay, so that is for the face of the card, either way. All right, so now that we have everything sort of figured out, let's take a look and see what we have here. Now we actually cut the entire base out of a gold foil because there's a lot of little bits of gold that we wanted to use throughout the project. Okay, so first thing we can do just to kind of start removing or getting rid of some pieces here is get our little insert glued into place. Okay, and this is our little insert. Now, by the way, I mentioned this with the King of Hearts card that we released. We're going to release some bonus inserts for this card as well, hopefully a few days after the main release. So look for that. That will be a separate download on our site. So we're going to take this and just make sure that you get that placed nice and centered. It's kind of hard to see the edge here where the score line is, but when you put this down, just make sure that you have a nice even border all the way around, like so. And press that into place. There we go. Okay, wonderful. So that's that. And this is going to be the face of our card. Now let's start kind of building the face of this. These 2 pieces here, we're going to leave this along with this and our little love caption. We're going to leave those alone for now. We're going to take and build our little frame first. Okay, so we have a white. And then what I'm going to do here actually is I'm going to take and glue this little piece with all the little circles cut out on top of this first frame. Okay, and that's going to be nice and centered, even borders on both sides. Now with something like this, with all these little holes, we want to try to be, well, just cautious and careful of the fact that we have all these little holes where the glue could possibly leak through, but I'm going to go ahead and apply this, and then as I do this, or once I'm done actually applying the glue, I think it's going to be okay. But if you have any areas that are super heavy with the glue, just dab it with your finger to thin it out so it does not bleed through. And then we're just going to place that right onto our blue piece, the larger blue. Make sure that we have a nice even border all the way around. And just press that into place. Now this, because it's so thin, could have a tendency to sort of wiggle around on its own, independently of the sections that it's actually connected to. So just be careful as you put this down, but you should end up with something like this. Okay, whoops. And then we're going to take this whole piece and glue it to the white piece. Now it's a little funky in that what you want to do is you want to achieve an even border around the inside. Okay, the outside is going to vary ever so slightly, so I would recommend just keeping your focus on the inside white portion just to make sure that you get everything lined up correctly. All right, so let's go ahead and apply our glue to the back of this. And then what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put this on my card base now, only because, well, we're using a gold foil as our card base, which is atypical for us. I don't know if we've ever done that actually. And it's a little bowed. It's not like completely flat. So I'm going to need to put it underneath my mat for a little bit to let it sort of flatten out and actually take hold. And that's okay because the rest of this card, we're actually going to build this on this little platform, so to speak. Okay, but that's what your frame should look like ultimately. Okay, and that being said, that is going to get glued onto the card base like so. Okay, so I'm going to put this down flat. You can see here that, I guess it's just that half that's a little wonky. That's okay. I'm going to apply my glue to the entire white portion here. And then this is going to go on the gold base. And we want to make sure that, again, we maintain a nice even border all the way around. Now, the one thing that I love, and I say that sarcastically, about foil is how slippery it is. And it doesn't always just grab right away. But again, just make sure you've got a nice even border all the way around. Kind of have to nudge it a little bit here and there. It's totally normal. Take a look and make sure it's straight. There we go. That actually worked out nicely. Okay, cool. So I'm going to take this immediately and just pop it right under my mat to help it dry flat. Now we can start working on the main part of the card here. Okay, so first things first, let's kind of work our way from the bottom up. We have this element that's going to go on top of the white. This is all going down flat, so we're not going to do any training of any sort. So we can literally just apply our glue, smack it right on top of that white piece. Okay, and then just get a little bit of glue on the outer portions of this design here. If you have time and can get a little bit on those stems, definitely do so. And obviously you want the little dots here on the bottom left to line up. So do that. The edges should line up as well, as should the bottom. Get that lined up and then just go ahead and press the rest of the little loose elements into place. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're going to kind of build it from the bottom up, which means that I want to take and do my little leaves now. Okay, and we'll start off with this little set of leaves that are kind of connected together. And my cat wants to leave. You can hear him meowing in the background. We have a little marker there for this set. Hey buddy, I'll let you out. I'm working right now. You're just gonna have to be patient. Okay, now a few of these are actually gonna get glued onto this gold foil. I can tell you right now, the largest leaf here will be part of that. And then we have this little guy. Kind of looks like an almond. I guess they all kind of do, but this one's going to go right here. So this one we can actually glue down now. Just put a few little drops on there. Use the little markers to guide you and press that into place. Beautiful. Okay, and there's another one that kind of shares that shape. Looks like it's this one here. And that's going to go right here. Okay, so let's give that a little flipperoo. Add our glue. And pop that right there. Beautiful. Okay, this little spot here is, now let me just get these hearts over here so you can see the relative shapes and sizes. Okay, it's this one here. It's like the third largest. So we can get that glued down. That's going down flat. I did ink this with some pretty pink. That's going there. Now the smallest heart is going to go right here where you have that little marker. So this is kind of not a lot of dimensional work aside from the flowers. We are essentially doing a lot of paper piecing here, which is fun. Okay, next we're going to grab the second largest flower. I'm sorry, is it? No, of the three left, the smallest. Grab the smallest heart. Okay, and that's going to go right here. Right there. Just line that up with the marker. Beautiful. It could use a little nudge. Hopefully there we go. Okay, got that. And then the rest of the elements here are either going to be glued, they're all going to be glued to this. Okay, so we're pretty much done with what we can do with this section. That being said, let's do one other thing here before we get into the bulk of it. And that is to take our love caption and put it on our little shadow layer. I'm going to use a series of dots. Just make sure you get it all the way around. And then of course keep a nice even border all the way around so that the shadow layer stays nice and consistent. Now to avoid blemishing your foil, just flip it over and press from the other side once you have it where you want it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that's ready to go, and that's going to actually be foam squared on top of that shadow once we get to that spot. All right, now before we start shaping our flowers, we can take our gold foil piece here and we can not only get our hearts in place, but we can do the rest of the leaves as well. So this one's relatively easy. It's just a matter of finding the remaining pieces and matching them up with their corresponding shadow layers on the actual floral stem. Press that down. Now if you're using gold foil like I am, bear in mind that it may take it a few extra moments to fully set. So we have two hearts left. I'm going to get the other one in place, and then we'll do the leaves. And then we can just put our flowers together, which will be fun. You guys love making flowers with me. These now obviously cannot be as dimensional since they're going on a card. We kept that in mind, so I have some techniques to share with you to give them a little bit of dimension, but to not make it overwhelming to where you can't put it in an envelope. Okay, so that one seems to be in place. And now it's just a matter of matching up the leaves with their corresponding shadows as well. So obviously that one's going to go there. Make sure that you have it in the correct orientation. So before you glue it down, maybe place it where you think it's going to go, because you might have to rotate it. There we go. So that one's going there. Perfect. Hopefully it sticks and doesn't give me a hard time. I don't know why it would, but all right, buddy, I'm almost done. Okay. And just finish up the little leaves here. Take your time, making sure that it absolutely matches up with the shadow layer. Apply some glue, pop it in place, and then we'll move on to getting our flowers put together. So I'll see you back here in just a moment because my cat will not let up. I'm gonna have to let him outside. Okay, so at this point, we're ready to take this element here and glue it down onto, I guess, what you could call the card base. It's kind of a secondary base. Whoa. So I'm going to start down here on the caption, And we're going to use the shadow elements on the actual base as sort of a guide for placement. Everything else should just naturally fall into place. These little circles with the holes cut out of them, those are little identifiers for where we're going to place our flowers. Okay, so very gently, just kind of drop. I'd start with the largest heart, get that in place. And this is going to be, they're going to kind of be free floating somewhat. So just make sure that they're making a little bit of contact on all of the little elements here, especially up at the top. Pardon my head, it's probably in the way as usual. Just press that down. Okay, and you know, honestly, if you can't get it all in one fell swoop, it's okay, because we can always take a scrap piece of paper, just throw a little bit of glue on it, and then these little individual sections that are kind of dangling, you can just put a little bit of glue right on that piece. Just do it one at a time, just to make sure we get everything aligned precisely. Okay, there we go. I think this leaf is still a little loose. Throw a little extra glue on there. And I'll lift that up with the tip of my little, call it a brush. Get a little bit of that stem. Get the leaf, line it up, and give it a press. There we go. And I pretty much dispose of my little scraps between each use, because I don't want to accidentally get glue in places it doesn't belong. I'd rather just work with a fresh piece each time. I'll lift up this leaf, maybe get a little bit on the stem. That first heart that I placed, this one here, he's fine, which is good because it sort of anchors the rest of the design and makes it a lot easier to align everything else. Okay, I'll grab a fresh one, throw some glue on it, and moving right along here. Okay, I'll do that large one. And let's see here. That one could use a little love. Just lift it up, paint a little glue on it, line it up, press it down. Let's get a fresh one. And then I'm going to check the main part of the stem here just to make sure it's sitting nice and flush. You can literally use the tip of your little brush to lift it up and then press it down. There we go. And don't worry if a little bit of glue spills out there, because you can have a flower covering that up anyway. Okay, so that's that. All that's really left is the flower. As I mentioned, we're going to take and let me grab my card out from underneath my mat. Everything is nice and flat now. And we're going to take this and glue this right in the center, just like that. Okay, so we can take this whole thing and flip it over. We'll apply our glue. And then that way, if you need to do what I'm doing as far as, you know, if you're using a gold foil for your base and need it to dry flat, and you can just do this real quick, get it in place, pop it back under our mat, let the mat do the work of getting it to stay. Just make sure you've got a nice even border around the inside. Press that down. Let's take a look, make sure it's straight. That looks great. And we'll pop that right under the mat. Boy, everything's just rhyming right now. Okay, we'll put the love in place in a little bit, but let's focus on the flowers now, okay? So a couple things you can do here, and I'm probably going to combine some methods here. I have a mouse pad. It's kind of beat up, but that's okay. So we'll do one flower at a time. Both of them are going to go together the same exact way. So if you do one, you can do them both. I'll put these on my mat. And what I wanted to do was to just give them a little bit of dimension from the inside. So I have this little ball pen or ball tool. And what you do is just kind of just do little circles right towards the center to kind of raise it a little bit. Okay, now this is a little bit, probably not as effective without putting in a lot of work on a pearlescent paper like this, but you can see that it's just kind of raising the petals a little bit. We can only give this so much dimension because, again, it's going to be on the front of a card. We don't want it to pop too much, especially if you're mailing it, right? So that just kind of lifts the petals up a little bit, kind of gives it a conical cone sort of shape. Okay. And then what we'll also do, so that's for one flower. I'll put that off to the side, and we'll grab these smaller petals. And I have, so there's a little kit that you can buy that comes with these. And actually, you know what? I kind of like the larger one, even for the smaller flowers. Less work. And you can see how the petals just kind of raise up effortlessly. Just doing little circles. All right, so now put that back with the smaller pieces. I'm going to grab a dowel, and what I want to do is just kind of take, and we're going to pinch the tips of each of the petals between your finger and the dowel, and literally just kind of pull it towards you. And all we're trying to do is just kind of create a little bit of dimension on the tips of the flower petals. Okay, not too much, obviously. So we've added that sort of cup shape to help give it a little bit of dimension there. Because typically what we'll do with flowers is we'll train the entire petal. And again, since it's on a flower, we don't have room to do that. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that process for all of the petals. Now the thinner the dowel, the more pronounced it's going to look. Now aside from that, that's a tiny dowel. I don't know that I have anything smaller than that. So the next thing to use would be something that isn't made of wood that looks like a dowel. This is actually a hibachi stick. And you can see here when I curl that, it actually gives it a really nice look. Just kind of grabs the ends of it and gives them a little bit of dimension. So I think I kind of like this look over the thicker dowel. So you can experiment with different diameters of dowels, There's some alliteration for you to see what sort of look you end up with, and just go with what your favorite is. Okay, I'm totally digging this one, so I'm going to stick with it. Sometimes when I'm shaping flowers, I try not to do anything that would cause an unsightly crease. I kind of like when the petals are just kind of flowing naturally and you don't have that harsh line. But with this, I can maybe make an exception if I happen to get a really tough looking crease. Because I think once we get everything layered, it's going to look nice. And again, we don't have much room to add too much dimension to this because of the fact that it needs to be mostly flat. Okay, so I'm grabbing the petals now from the smaller flower, and there's 4 of those. So just go through, and I'm literally doing about three of these motions, one on the side, one in the center, and one on the other side of each of the petals. And you don't have to do it that way, and you can also, if you want, you can actually curl it the other way, like away from you, which could add some interest and just kind of make it more random. I've said this over and over the years, that flowers in nature are rarely ever perfect. So the more interest you can give them, the more real they'll look. And we cut this out of a white pearlescent as well, which is very nice. Again, I think Valentine's Day is very suitable for, a lot of bling and rhinestones and that kind of stuff. Okay. So now, in addition to one other thing that we want to do here, these little stamen pieces, you can actually do the same thing with these. Probably should have left this out. That's okay. I'm going to give these a little bit of a curl, and you can see it kind of creased it there, but I'm okay with that. We'll do that. That last piece, we're going to leave that flat because we need to glue a little gold behind it. Okay, so let's just shape that just a little bit. Shape that one just a little bit. Put that back with the small flower. And then you can take and we're going to glue this gold to this pink. And just make sure that you have it lined up correctly. It is kind of an odd shape. It's not symmetrical at all, so just be cautious. And if you do want to add a bit of dimension to this element, it's best to do it while it's still drying, which can be, well, could be a little difficult when you're using gold foil. So just do your best. It's still drying here, and I'm just going to take and kind of curl both of them together at the same time, just like I was doing with the petals. It should be okay, even with the gold foil element involved here. Just ever so slightly, just so that everything's not so flat. Flat is boring. Okay, there we go, that'll work. And then we'll do the same thing on this one. Just make sure you get it lined up correctly. And this smaller one may be a little more difficult to shape just because it's so small. You don't have a lot to work with, but we'll see what we can do with it. But first and foremost, just make sure you get it lined up. And we got some activity on Instagram right now. I think it's a robot messing with my subscriber count. Okay, get that one curled. And then just give these a few moments to dry. Okay, now as far as assembling the flowers go, pretty simple. We're going to start with the two largest petals. And you can just take and apply a little bit of glue around that little circle in the center there. Then grab the other one, and you want to just offset it. So you don't want them right on top of each other. Rotate it so that each petal is visible, and then just line up the circles in the center. That is your guide for alignment. And there you go. And grab the next one. These two are pretty much the same size, if not the exact same size. So it doesn't really matter which one you grab. And then again, a little glue in the center, and again, rotate. So if the orientation is like this, just rotate it so that it's the opposite. And press that in place. And then one more time here. A little bit of glue in the center, grab this one, and rotate it, offset it. Just like that. Okay, now one additional thing too, once you get all these layers glued together, you can take your little shaping tool and just kind of push on the center, and you can kind of keep it in the same spot and just kind of rotate it around, and that will help kind of lift it up and give it some additional dimension as well. I think some of that dimension may have been lost as a result of gluing the layers together. Okay, so not a big deal. All right, now we have two more layers to go here. And with this, you just want to offset it so that a little bit of each layer is visible. So we'll just put a little bit of glue in the center, and we don't need to glue this thing down completely flat. We want it to be somewhat dimensional. And yeah, I can see here, I'm gonna end up using that little tool to give this dimension after I get everything glued into place, because I can tell that as I introduce the next layer, it sort of flattens everything out, so it's okay. All right, so that one, just gonna offset that a little bit so a little bit of that pokes out. And then finally, we have the center part, the center stamen. And we can just put some glue on there and just cover up the hole. Okay, so at this point, what we can do to kind of give this a little extra dimension is just take the leaves and just pull them out a little bit away from each other. Okay, so do the first layer first, second layer behind that next, and just work your way up. Okay, and then finally, let's put the center stamen in place. This one you can go a little bit heavier on the glue with, and just pop that right in there, right in the center. Doesn't have to be perfectly aligned. Actually, speaking of that, there's really no perfect way to align it. Okay, let's grab our card base so that we can kind of just lay it there for a second, and that looks fantastic. So I'm just going to repeat that process with the smaller flower. So start with the two largest petals, get your glue in the center of the first one, take the next one, offset it. Okay, there we go. And just continue down the line here. Grab this one and offset and center. All right, my Instagram counter was driving me nuts, so I just unplugged it. That's definitely a bot of some sort. Okay, last set of petals, line it up with that little center circle, press it into place, make sure it's offset. I am going to take and run my little tool right in the center, just literally just kind of center it and just rotate it around like that. Okay, and then I think this time I'm going to approach this a little bit differently. I'm going to take these two layers, largest one first, and glue the smaller one on top of the larger one. Doesn't matter how, just as long as you still see a little bit of that larger one behind it. And then we'll take the center, go a little bit heavier on the glue with that, pop that right in the middle, press that into place, give that a good squeeze. I had a little bit of glue shoot out there, but you know what, it's okay because we'll probably add to it. And then go ahead and apply some glue in the center of your flower, just like that. That's nice. Let's pull this over here, and there it is. That turned out really nice, actually. Okay, so I'm gonna let that flower sort of set. Again, this card really lends itself to adding some gold pearls here. I was thinking about using some liquid pearls here in the centers of the stamens. I mean, since we have that gold already in place, it may not be necessary. But either way, at this point, what you can do is apply some glue on this little gold circle, and then just do your best to get that centered right there, like so. That looks nice. And then same thing here. My glue nozzle has seen better days. It needs a shower. Hey Siri, stop. Okay, and I've got a little splotch of glue there that will eventually dry and become mostly transparent. And then of course we have our little love caption that we need to glue down. Actually, not glue down. I'm going to use some foam squares to apply that so that we have some nice dimension on the caption. Center of the E is a good place to start, the O, and then of course, well, for those of you that have been with me for a long time, you know that you can literally take your scissors and just cut these in half in case you need to apply them to sections that won't hold a full-sized foam square. So we'll put one there. That looks nice. Okay, we'll let this all kind of set for a moment while we put together the envelope. And then our card is pretty much done. Again, I mentioned a couple days after we finish this release, check the website, make sure you're part of the newsletter, as we're going to be releasing some bonus inserts for this card. There we go. Beautiful. Look at that. We have the main envelope here, and then we have our little gold overlay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to apply our glue to the main part of the flap, mostly around the little cutouts for the flowers. Okay, so like that. And then we're also going to take and do a fine line around the perimeter, okay? Because you can't put glue on this whole thing because you may end up with glue on the actual gold part, and then, well, put it in a place where it doesn't belong, and then it will show through the little cutouts on the main flap. Okay, so now since this is gold foil, I will need to probably just put this under my mat for at least a minute or so, just to make sure that it dries completely flat. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back and wrap this up. Okay, beautiful card. Came out great. I'm going to play with some, as I mentioned, gold pearls in these locations that are already cut out. So for those of you that don't have gold pearls, well, we've gotten them there for you. But if you want to add some dimension and add some actual gold pearls, you're more than welcome to do that. Excuse me. And now let's take a look at our envelope. So I've got the panel in place. You'll notice there's a set of markers there for our hearts, which we're going to glue down, and then we have some flowers that are going to go into the little spots where we have flowers to add a little splash of interest. So for this, I'm just going to use little dots, probably just one on each little petal, and then also one in the center, and just line that up and match it up with the corresponding little sections there. And just, I think, just naturally go from largest to smallest, but you can do it however you want. Okay, this one's going to go here, just like that. And I've got two more. We'll close it up and call it a day and call it a bundle. This is the last, for me, it's the last one of the 3 new items. And I got them all done, all 3 of them actually, in an afternoon, not including the cutting. Cutting was done yesterday in preparation. Also did the inking. Got the inking done in about a half of an hour-long podcast, to give you an idea of how long that took. So that wasn't bad, and there you go. Also, on these little flowers here, you can add like little pearls, probably something either pink or blue to coordinate with the rest of the card, and that pretty much will do it. We're going to bring these flaps in, apply a little bit of glue along the inside sections here and here. And now why are you clogging up on me? You're a fresh bottle. There we go. Put those down, bring this up. Reminds me of changing a diaper now. So cute. And there it is. Okay. And you can also add some pearls to this if you want. Totally up to you. But that is going to do it for this beautiful card. I hope you enjoyed the process. If you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. There's a little bell you can click on to get notifications anytime we release a new project. And if you make this or anything from our new bundle, I would love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to Facebook, do a search for Dreaming Tree Official. That's where you'll find myself and over 47,000 other dreamers that inspire us daily. So hope you had a blast, and as always, I look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos, and please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section, where you'll find over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly tutorials. I'll see you in the craft room.